What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello.
This is terrible.
You guys are going to have a really shitty podcast to listen to.
For a hot minute. It's going to be a hot minute. So here's what's going on. We are in our podcast room, but our podcast room is empty. It has nothing on the walls. So therefore, you're going to hear echoes probably, and that's really terrible, and I apologize. We also have to be sitting at a table instead of in our bed like we normally are because we are moving. And by we,
Not
I mean,
me.
I was say by we, I mean me, my husband, and our son. So we're actually essentially ditching Sierra. But not because we're actually ditching her. Yeah, we're not ditching her. It's just she has a job and like she has to stay here. And then my husband accepted a new job that makes us move. So we're in the process of selling our house. And so that entails taking everything off the walls. And so our podcast room is empty. And I did a Fatal Blend episode last week after we'd already taken stuff off the walls, and it was definitely echoey. So I apologize. It's going to be echoey, and it's going to be echoey for a hot minute because the walls have to stay empty until the house sells.
And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking this is the last that you hear of Crime
No.
Bitches, and that's not the case. We're going to try to make it work.
Oh, no.
We're going to
listen.
We've got some ideas to be able to
listen.
do the podcast together.
It's not ending. We're moving 2 hours away from her. So
and the boyfriend that I
it's
have right
fine.
now is literally the halfway point between where they're going to be
yeah.
and where I'm at.
So basically we'll just do a lot of pre-recording though. So you might hear a couple episodes that it sounds like we're recording them back to back. We might be talking about like a current event that's currently happening 2 times in a row. And that's just because we are probably going to be recording like multiple episodes at once. And that's how we're going to do it. So apologies for the echo, but there's nothing I can do about it. I got to sell this house and I have to have the walls empty to do so. So
yeah, because even if we lowered our microphones, guys, it would still
echo.
doesn't matter.
I mean, if we lowered our microphones, that would be fine, but then we would be really quiet. So
Right.
it's like we have to just be nice. So that being said, we're going to just get right into what we are talking about this week. And this is not brought to you by Sierra. And this is not even brought to you by me. I mean, it is because I researched it. But this is actually brought to you by my son. And when I say my son, it's actually one of his books that it brought us to. And I thought it would be a fun little thing. So this week we are talking about the Butterworth Building. Not Butterworth like Mrs. Butterworth, but like Butterworth. This is a building that is located in Seattle, Washington. And this is the Butterworth Building. Now, this building has been said to be one of the most haunted places in Seattle. And this building was built in 1903. We're going to get into a little bit of background. So Edward Ray Butterworth actually opened this building in 1903, and this building is located on First Hill. Now, I do not live in Seattle, so I actually don't know where First Hill is, but if you're from the Seattle area and you know where First Hill is, that's where it is. And this was supposed to be used exclusively for mortuary services. So it was a building that he literally, I don't know if he built it or if he just bought it. I think he bought the building, but he bought it and he wanted it to be specifically for mortuary services because Edward was a mortician and he had studied in the most up-to-date techniques, including the latest embalming methods and the latest funeral services that they had. And so he wanted to bring that to the Seattle area. And at the time, the Seattle area had nothing like this. So the building had prep rooms. And in the prep rooms, that's where they would do like the embalming rooms. And those were all located in the basement of this building. Then they had viewing parlors, which were located on the upper floors. And this is where you would go in and sit during the funerals where they would have like the casket and people sit in there. That's where you would do that. Then they had a chapel and they also had the living quarters for the Butterworth family in the same building. So they were living in this building as well as, which totally creeps me out. Totally creeps me out. Now, the funeral home was used by many of the city's most prominent people of that time. It was also home to Dr., and I'm quoting Dr. because you can't see me, I'm air quoting Dr. Linda Hazard's patients. Now, Dr. Linda Hazard had actually sent quite a few of her patients / victims to this location to be cremated. And the reason I say this, because these people were starved in her sanitarium. And her sanitarium is located in Olalla, Washington. And so she would literally take her victims and send them to this place, have them cremated, and voila, they're done. Now, if you're wondering, I did look up Dr. Linda Hazard, and yes, she is a serial killer. So yes, she's been added to my list of serial killers for Fatal Blend. I actually was thinking, oh, if she's somebody who like killed somebody, I can do it here. But then I realized, no, she's got like a list of people.
You should do her next week so that
it kind of goes hand in hand. Now, I do need to note though that I do need to note here that the Butterworth family, they were never charged with any wrongdoing related to Linda. So I can't say this, but I don't know if they had knowledge of her mistreatment and her killing of her patients, or if it was more like they were just didn't ask questions and they just cremated people for her. I am unsure.
Or a little,
or maybe a little
penny.
Yeah. Or maybe, there was, I mean, in my opinion, if you have a doctor from a sanitarium and they continue to bring you people who are basically malnutrition and dead, I would think you'd start asking questions. But apparently that
the malnutrition, the dead part probably not.
Right. But, I'm assuming that because she kept going back there, maybe they kind of were just like an unspoken, like, don't
Or maybe she was able to sweet talk her way into, this is a therapy treatment that's worked for others, but hasn't worked for them.
Maybe. Now, this building continued to actually serve the community as a funeral home from 1903 to 1966, which is a very long time. Now, over the years, the funeral home actually handled the funerals for prominent citizens of Seattle, city officials, business leaders, and then, of course, just a ton of like ordinary Seattle citizens. So it became like a funeral home that a lot of people went to. And I believe it went from being called Butterworth. I don't remember. Oh, never mind. I can't even say what it was. I think it was Butterworth and Sons or something is what it ends up being. But that was that was just the way they did it. Now, records show that they handled many different types of deaths, including industrial accidents. They handled a ton of deaths during the 1918 influenza pandemic, and they actually handled multiple deaths from both of the world wars because they've been open for so long. Now, it has been claimed that due to the amount of people that have come into the building over the years, especially those who were passing spiritually between Earth and wherever it is that they were going to go, that it is now the home of one of Seattle's most concentrated collections of ghost activity. On top of these people that, they were dealing with, there were also people who died in the building as well from the fact that Butterworths lived there. People died in the family. And so there are deaths inside of the building as well.
Also, if you guys hear more outside activity, we had to crack a window because the paint smell. Sierra was seeing colors.
It's pretty intense.
I was smelling colors.
It shouldn't be like that. I don't know what the fuck is going on with that.
Sorry, not to interrupt the podcast, but if I've noticed if people hear that
we
more.
We had to open the window.
Again, bear with us, guys. Bear with us.
Just a shit show, y'all. Anyways, yes. So on top of, again, the Butterworth family members also died in this home as well. So you not only have people who were brought there that were already dead that were being embalmed and being prepared for funerals, but you also have people who actively died in the home. Now, after closing its doors in 1966, which, by the way, they closed in 1966 mainly because the way that funeral services were handled began to change and it didn't fit what they had anymore. So it was kind of like just an inevitable change. But I mean, if you really think about it, they were open for 63 years. That's a really long time to be open doing the same type of funeral services. Now, the top floor of the building has actually been home to many different restaurants. Most of them don't tend to stay open very long. So, for example, Avenue 1. Now, this was a restaurant that opened and it stayed open from 1997 to 2002. And during this time, they basically experienced multiple paranormal events. One in particular was that 2 wine bottles had flown across off of a wine rack and across the room and barely missed an employee's head, just out of the blue. Then there was also multiple reports of a vase that would just randomly be moved without anybody touching it. And then there was also an old woman who had vanished through a wall that people had reported seeing. And this would happen at these restaurants. And I don't know if that's why they closed or if they just closed because maybe their food sucked. Like, I can't say it's because it was haunted or whatever.
Well, I almost feel like it being haunted would bring more attraction.
You're not wrong, because this is why. On the ground floor of the building, there is a restaurant called Kells Irish Restaurant and Bar. Now, this one has stuck around for quite some time. It has actually been open since the 80s, and it still is there today. Now, when I looked it up, it even said that the owner of Kells has been expanding into the building in other parts as well, opening up, like, I think they actually opened up an upper building, but it's a different restaurant, but it's the same owner. Now, according to irishstar.com, the owner of Kells, his name is Patrick, he had said that the Butterworths were not good people. So this was his, I read this and I was like, oh, because everything else I read was like, oh, he's a mortician and he's this, that. Well, according to Patrick.
Just like some Sweeney Todd shit.
Not necessarily, no. But according to Patrick, his parents are the ones who actually purchased the building for Kells, like to open up. I don't know if actually now I say, I don't know if they purchased the building or if they just went into the building, right? To open up Kells. And he said it wasn't for any reason other than they were just looking for a building. And he said, however, what we have found out is that the Butterworths were not good people. They were gangsters. They did not actually have a license to be a mortuary. And he claims that people were literally given money to just collect bodies off of the streets and bring it to them. And he said this was literally their business was like a racket.
I believe it now that you say that because of the doctor.
That's what I'm saying. Right?
I can believe it now.
Right. So
like at first I'd be like, meh, but if we wouldn't have heard about her.
Right. So there is a chance that is true, but I'm letting you know that's coming out of the owner who actually owns Kells now. That's his historical knowledge.
I'm going to go there and be like, sir,
Butterworth.
Can we talk about something? Would you like to be on Crime Bitches?
So you got to take all that information with a grain of salt because again, I'm just reporting. So there was also a shaman who actually visited this building at one point, and that shaman actually said that he could count 19 ghosts that are haunting that building. Now, one of the most prominent spirits at the Butterworth Building is actually Edward Ray Butterworth himself. His ghost appears as a distinguished gentleman in formal Victorian attire, and he's often seen walking the halls as if he's actually conducting business. And his presence is really the strongest in the buildings that were the former office areas of the building. He has also been seen looking like he's reviewing paperwork and potentially greeting clients, even though there's like no clients there. And witnesses have also said that he looks as if he's maintaining the building when they see him. So they've seen him look like he's straightening furniture. He might look like he's touching the wall, like he's adjusting a picture frame that would be on the wall. And so that's the most often seen ghost. Now there's also an area in the building that used to be the chapel. Now in the chapel, there are claims that the chapel is haunted by what is deemed the widow in black. Now, she is actually believed to be the spirit of Mrs. Catherine Morrison. Just listen to this. Mrs. Catherine Morrison was attending her husband's funeral in 1924. And in the middle of her husband's funeral, she died of grief. And they believe that is her spirit in the chapel. It is said that her spirit has never left the building since that day. She appears as a figure in a Victorian mourning dress, and she is often seen in the chapel's front row, and her presence is normally accompanied with quiet sobbing and the smell of lilies that are used at funerals. So like you'll walk in and you might see like a ghostly figure and you'll hear crying and you'll smell lilies.
Hearing crying makes me think of Left 4 Dead.
The witch.
The witch. Yeah.
Don't approach her.
Literally.
Now, the basement where the embalming took place is also said to have a collection of ghosts, which would make sense because that's
would.
Yeah. And they actually deem this what they call the waiting dead. That's what they call it down there. Now, this is literally just ghosts of spirits who are lingering, and they are often seen as translucent figures that are actually lying on prep tables. However, there's no prep tables. So like you would walk into the room, they're like lying as if they're dead on a table, but there's no, so they're essentially floating there. And again, they're not solid figures. They're translucent, like shadowy figures that you would see. And my guess is when you see them,
makes me think of Casper.
Well, and I'm assuming that when you see them, you're kind of like, what the fuck did I just see? Like it's a shadow and then it kind of disappears. I highly doubt they're just like chilling and you're like, oh, look, it's ghostly figures.
It's like Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, I don't think it's like that. Now, they also say that their presence is felt more often. And the way you feel this is temperature drops. And they say that the temperature becomes extremely cold. And then all of a sudden you'll get this crazy sensation that you're being watched. And it creeps you the fuck out. That's really when you know that they're there. Now, the former viewing rooms, there is what is deemed the mourning mother. Now, this is thought to be the ghost of a woman who lost all 3 of her children to diphtheria in 1912. And her spirit appears to be trying to actually console other grieving people. And she has been known to try to that she has been known to actually try to grieve living people. So like if you go into where one of these viewing rooms are, she may approach you. I'm assuming you can't hear her, but she may walk up like to try to pat your hand to tell you that it's okay type stuff. I'd shit my fucking pants.
No, you wouldn't, because think about it. If the guy that we saw at Alcatraz really was potentially a ghost, he looked like any other fucking guy there.
That's true.
I mean, he definitely, like you and I talked about, it's like all the ocean, the seagulls like went quiet. You really fucking heard the keys.
Yeah, that's
he was
true.
going down a path that literally it says not even access to the fucking workers.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it was like out of everybody in my vision, he really stood out.
Yeah, he did.
Like, and in hindsight, he just looked like another person.
True.
But he really stood out.
I think
so
I'd shit my pants
that's real.
Yeah, but I think I'd shit my pants. Well, first of all, I don't like people. So let's get this straight. If somebody walks up to me and tries to touch my hand, I'm looking at you like you fucking crazy ass.
What would you do? What would you do? Genuinely, if we were there and you're like, this lady's talking to you, and I look at you and I go, Mom, who the fuck are you talking to?
I'd fucking, you know what I'd do? I'd go home and I'd be like, I'm dying. I'm going to be dead.
No, you'd go to the church and be like, Father.
Demons are coming to me. I already know. Actually, forewarning, there are no demons here. Okay, I told you I don't do demons.
See, I'm shocked by that, actually.
There's no demons. Well, they say there's no demons, but I'll tell you. I'll get to that in a minute. Anyways, so now we're talking about the upper floors. So now we're on the upper floors of the building, and this is actually where the Butterworths lived in the building. Now, there is said to be several family members who haunt this area, and they are seen doing things like maintaining household chores and household routines. And they said that these routines also are very reminiscent of what they did when they were alive. So it literally is like they just never left the building. And in my honest opinion, if that's true, I bet you they don't even realize they're dead. Like, I'll bet you they think that they're just living their life. It makes me think of Beetlejuice. Like when they are in their when they're in their attic and they don't realize that they're dead. I feel like that's kind of what the scenario is for these guys. Now, it is said that the most paranormal times are during the late evenings and the early morning hours. And this actually makes sense because these times would be associated with the times that the bodies were being prepared and embalmed for funeral services. It is also said that the elevator will operate on its own sometimes, passing between floors without ever being like dinged to go up and down. It just, could you imagine that? You're like working all of a sudden the elevator's like just going.
Fuck no.
Hell no. Also, I'm not getting in that elevator because what if you never let me out? Okay. And I'm terrified of elevators. I'm fucking shitty. I just realized I just am just a shitty person. Now, people have also reported that they have heard funeral music coming from the areas of like where the chapel would be. And they said that the funeral music sounds like it's literally being created with live organs, hymns, and mourning songs. And they said, but there's no instruments at all in the building. So there's no way that's actually happening. But many people have reported hearing funeral music and then not being able to figure out where it's coming from.
It's like the janitor just pressing play.
Now, visitors have also reported hearing sounds of running water while they're in the prep rooms. Because again, remember the prep rooms were in the basement. So when you're in the basement, people have heard the sound of running water. However, that's not possible because the plumbing for the basement has been dry for years. They don't have plumbing down there. There's no water down there. So you would not hear running water at all in the basement. However, people do. There have also been claims of smelling embalming chemicals. Again, no chemicals have been used for decades in this building. So when you're in the area where they used to embalm and you start hearing running water and the smell of chemicals, fucking run because that means there's some ghosts in your presence. It's also been shown that electronic devices will malfunction while you're going throughout the building. There have been pictures that have caught funeral arrangements in areas where there's no funerals, meaning people have taken pictures while they're at the building and there's funeral arrangements going on in the pictures, but there haven't been funeral arrangements in this building since 1966. There's also been recordings of conversations that people have actually recorded of people talking about burial arrangements. Again, no funerals have been done in this building since 1966. Nobody is talking about burial arrangements. And they're being recorded and they can hear them in areas of the building talking about it. The windows to the buildings have also been known to fog up from the inside with messages written on them. Sometimes it'll say names, and the names happen to be those that have been deceased in the building. And some of them will have actually funeral information of like dates and times of funerals from the inside. So like a creepy ass hand is writing these things. Now, cold spots can also be found throughout the building, and security guards and maintenance workers have reported seeing funeral processions. And they said that these will include translucent figures who are walking through the halls, including pallbearers that look like they're carrying a casket, but there's no casket to carry, and mourners following. So they will literally see ghostly figures walking through the hall as if they're following somebody to a funeral service. That would just I'm sorry, that shit would creep me out. Now, the basement also has had sounds of embalming procedures. They've also heard the sounds of medical equipment being moved. And there has been seen presence of what looks like a mortician in that area.
That would be the creepiest part.
Right. I agree. Now, there was a report of a couple who they actually were seated at a booth eating at one of the various restaurants on the upper floor, the ones that, the restaurants don't last very long. And this couple was sitting in what had been deemed as the haunted booth because a lot of creepy things happened when you're sitting in this booth. And while they're sitting there, they actively watch a piece of plaster fall from the ceiling and onto the floor right by their feet, almost hitting them. Now, I know, first thing I thought of was like, okay, it's an old building. Plaster falls. But I was sitting there going, but it happened on more than one occasion. The plaster falling off these buildings. And some of these plaster are like new. It's been remodeled and stuff inside. So take that for what you will. Now, there was another time that there was an owner of a cafe that, again, was in the upper floors, and they had gone into the bathroom. And when they were in the bathroom, they saw that there was a pair of sneakers that were under one of the stalls, and they were like, okay, somebody's in here. And then they're getting ready to leave, and nobody comes in or out, and they look back, and the sneakers are not there. So the sneakers just disappeared. Now, the owner of Kells, Patrick has actually said that he does not know if he believes in ghosts, but he has definitely experienced some very weird things while owning Kells. He said that he has never actually seen really anything, but he has experienced a lot of different things. He said there's even a ghost named Charlie that they have named Charlie, and he has been seen many times by many people, specifically patrons of Kells. He's in a mirror, which is fucking creepy. But there is a specific mirror in Kells that a ton of people, especially now because of Charlie, they will go and take their pictures in front of the mirror. And it says like Kells Irish Restaurant Pub. It's like this mirror, right? And when you go and look in this mirror, oftentimes you'll look in it, and up in like the upper right-hand corner of the mirror, you will see a middle-aged man who is actually pretty happy looking, and he's wearing like a derby hat, and he'll just be standing there. And then you turn around and he is not behind you. So he's just like in the mirror, but he's not behind you. Now, there is a picture that was taken by a man of his wife. So she's standing in front of the mirror. She's not facing the mirror. She's actually, she's facing the mirror. So she's facing the mirror. Yeah.
He must be behind her.
He's
taking
behind
a picture
her.
Of her.
Yes. He's taking a picture of her looking in the mirror. Right. And in the picture, in the mirror, right behind her head, is the face of Charlie. But her husband was there, and he took the picture from behind, and there's clearly no man behind her. And that picture is a couple's picture that they took it. During a remodel of Kells, in the same area where the mirror is that you would see Charlie, they were taking pictures because, you know, when you are remodeling or whatever, you take before and after pictures or whatever. So that's what they were doing. Well, they took a picture of the area where Charlie's mirror is. And when they look at the picture, to the right of the mirror is a shadowy figure with a fucking scary ass, like skeletal mask looking face. Not Charlie, somebody else. And the owner of Kells has that picture. So you could literally go there and be like,
I'm telling you, we're going and I'm going to look at him and we're going to take a Seattle trip. And I'm going to be like, sir, we have a podcast.
See the picture?
We did a podcast about this place. You're featured in it. Can I see this picture?
Can I see that picture? Apparently,
he probably would.
No, according to the article I read, he gladly shows that picture to people.
Oh, I'll ask him.
Now, 40 years ago, the owner, they were cleaning up Kells for the night. It was closed. Okay, so they were locking everything down, wiping everything down, and they heard glass smashing. So they immediately run in the direction of where the glass was smashing. And they find a mirror has been found completely smashed on the ground. Now, near the mirror also was a candle that had been lit. So they actually are like, fuck it, we're searching this whole ass restaurant because somebody's here. Their first thought was like, even Patrick said, like, my thought was like, did somebody hide in like by the dishwasher until we close and they're just fucking with our shit? So they searched the whole entire premises for 20 minutes and find nobody. And they never found anybody, but that candle was lit and that mirror was smashed. Now, the most famous ghost that can be found at Kells, not in the building, but at Kells, is a little girl in a red dress. And we all know what my son says about little kids in places where little kids aren't supposed to be. He says if there's little kids in places that there's not supposed to be kids, it's a demon. Take that for what you will. Now, Patrick has said that the reported sightings of this little girl, is so many that she may as well be on his payroll. That's how many times he has been told that, like, I just saw a little girl in a red dress running through here. Now, it is said that she is sweet.
I'm going to tell you right now, if we end up going there and we sit down to eat and my mom sees a little girl in a red dress, she's going to be like, fucking get the bill, we're gone.
We're out of here. So it says, so it does say that she's a sweet girl and that she's playful. She's also...
That's how they get you.
I know. She's also shy and she's always wearing a red dress. Now, one particular sighting was of her, and it was told by an employee who worked at Kells. Now, he worked at security at Kells. And so they would go to different posts throughout the building, right? And so then they would rotate, throughout the night of where their shifts going to be posted. Because again, this is a restaurant and pub. So like after, I believe in Washington, it's like after 9:00, children can't be in the restaurant. So
if it's a place that allows underage pub.
They do.
Because like Shanahan's is a pub and grill, but I don't think kids can go there.
Children are allowed until I want to say it's 9:00, but they're open till 2. So it's like a bar at that. But it does tell you like,
I'm going when it's like midnight 1, 2.
That's when you're going to see all the ghosts.
Exactly.
Now so he said he was in his post that was actually upstairs. So he was kind of guarding the upstairs area, and he said that they were getting ready to rotate their positions, and he heard footsteps on the back stairwell. And so he was like, oh, and he's like, and then he realizes that it almost sounds like little running feet, like little kid feet. So he like looks around the corner and he sees just the feet and like the tail end of this red dress running up the stairs. And he realizes it's a little kid running up the stairs. So he gets onto his earpiece and he tells all of the security people, there is a little girl running up and down the back stairwells. Does anybody know why there's a little girl running up stairs? And he thinks it's somebody's kid, right? So he books it up because, again, I think a lot of these places, they're blocked off or they're probably not very safe for kids to be running around in. So he runs up after the little kid. And as he gets up there, he realizes there's nowhere for this little girl to go, right? Because it's a dead end up top. So, he kind of just starts walking up. Well, as he's walking up there, one of the other security guards goes into the earpiece and says, there's no way there's a little girl there because there's no kids here. Because again, this is like after the 9:00 cutoff. So there's nobody here with kids. Children should not be in the building at all because it's illegal, first of all. And if you have a child, you would have been kicked out already. So he's like, there's no way there's a little kid here. So he's like, what the fuck? So he goes up the stairs anyways, because he's like, okay, well, maybe it was like a person. I just thought it was a little kid, but they can't be up here. So he goes up 2 flights of stairs. And this last flight of stairs actually leads to only one doorway. There's nowhere else to go. It's up this flight, and it ends at a doorway. And so he opens the door, goes into the door, and it's pitch black. The room is pitch black. I don't even know if there's any like lights in there because he didn't turn on lights. And he said that when he walked in there, he said the room was so fucking cold. Freezing, like bone chilling cold. And he said all of the hairs on the back of his neck stood up. And he said, fuck that. It's a ghost. And he ran. He ran out of the building, or not out of the building, back down the stairs. And he ran as fast as he could to get away from it. And even the owner of Kells said, I've never seen, because he's like a big Samoan guy, I've never seen such a big man scared of such a little kid. That's what he said, because it's this little girl ghost. And he said to this day,
that's how the demons get you.
I know.
Has nobody ever seen a scary movie? They bring you in, they trap you in, and then they fucking shut the door, and then they kill you and take over your body.
She's totally, and that's why she ran there. I'm telling you, I'm not even playing. Now, he did say that to this day, that's one of the scariest things he's ever experienced. And no, he does not work at Kells.
I was like, this motherfucker still works there? I would have left.
No, and this happened, his incident.
I would have moved across the world.
He almost did. He moved across the country. He doesn't even live in Washington anymore.
Good.
And he said, this incident happened in like 2011. So this is not like an old incident. This is not crazy old.
I wonder if the little girl, though, did they have any kids?
I don't know if they had kids, but they did have funerals of kids. They had plenty of funerals with kids, especially with the 19.
But if it's a demon, it probably doesn't fucking matter.
Exactly. Now he also said, or not he. So the thing is, I got a little confused because there's the girl with the red dress, but then I also read that there's a little girl with red hair, and I'm kind of assuming that these are the same.
The red dress.
Well, I'm assuming. I think it's, well, first of all, the red dress comes directly from Patrick, the owner of Kells, so I believe him more than I would the books and the articles. But I'm thinking this is the same person or the same ghost that we're talking about. But here's what it says about the little girl with the red hair. Again, I'm pretty sure it's the girl with the red dress, so we're just going to assume that it's all the same girl. Because again, we said she's supposed to be sweet and playful, right? Well, this little girl likes to play pranks on adults. She also likes to play with the children who visit the restaurant during the day. It has even been said that she will manipulate objects and create toys to give to children. Specifically, she's given out rag dolls.
Okay, Annabelle.
Thank you. That's all I thought. Oh my God, that's all I thought. I was like, oh fuck, it's a demon. See, every time I do a haunting, fucking demons pop up. God damn it. And I didn't even tell your brother about this because I know what he's going to say. So I was waiting till we recorded, and then I'm going to tell him. And then he's going to look at me and be like, you just told a story about a demon. I already know. But could you imagine going to a restaurant and your child is like, I don't know, talking to just nobody, or talking to a little girl in a red dress and she gives a toy, and then you find out that little girl does not exist. And she is like,
I'm gonna tell you right now,
giving your child a fucking rag doll.
If I'm at a restaurant with my children, I don't have children, but if I did, and I was at a restaurant, and they said, "Mommy, look, I got this doll.
I'm punching you in the face.
A rag doll from this person," I'm gonna be like, "Oh, let me see that." Fucking yeet that shit far fucking away from us.
I'm cutting it up. And
I will
throw it.
Sorry, your childhood's ruined. I don't give a shit. I saved your life.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna take you home and make you watch Annabelle, so you know why we did it. And
perform an exorcism.
Anyways, so as for the owner of Kells, he has this specifically to say. He said there is weird feelings when he's in the building. He said, I've been in this building a million times by myself, all over the building, and there's definitely some weird feelings that come throughout the building. He said, but nobody has spent more time alone in this building than me. I don't find it at all weird. It's just people always ask, like, aren't you worried? And he said, well, I think I'm a little more concerned about living than I am the dead. So that's what he's saying. That's what he says. So if you are ever in downtown Seattle, and it's actually like across the street from Pike's Place. That's where it is. Which, by the way, also Pike's Place Market is also haunted. And I found that in the book. I didn't know this, but I found that in the book. Maybe you should check out Kells Irish Restaurant and Bar. Like I said, they are open basically 7 days a week until 2 a.m. Some days they open at 10. Some days they open at 12. It depends on the day. My question is, is the Butterworth Building somewhere that you would want to visit?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me tell you something else that I found out. While I was doing my research, guess what I found out about the Seattle area? First of all, there's a lot of haunted stuff out there, but They have, well, I have actually been on this personally. They have a underground city kind of in Seattle where you can do an underground tour and you go literally underneath Seattle and walk through.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay, I've been on that. I went on that when I was in high school. So that's kind of cool. But do you want to know what you can actually do?
We walked down this.
You probably did, because if you went to anywhere near Pike's Place, that's where it is.
Well, no, we walked like in the back alley by this place.
Well, that's where the demon hides out during the day. So good job. But I found out that they actually do ghost tours in Seattle.
Yeah.
And I told your brother, we will have to do that because he's very into ghost stuff. And I'm like, oh God, that's right up his alley. And Kells Irish Pub is actually on their stop of tours. And I did a ghost and vampire tour when I was in New Orleans, and I loved every minute of it, and I was totally creeped out by it, but I still loved every minute of it. So I think it's definitely something that we're going to have to do, is go up there and check it out. So is it a place that I would visit? Yes, I actually would visit Kells. I actually want to. At some point, I would love to visit Kells and, first of all, try their food, because I think that would be cool. It kind of does. When I see pictures of it, I feel like it's going to be very Shanahan-esque. I'm not going to lie. And so I do want to try it and see if we can see any ghost things. But you know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to look in the Charlie mirror. I'm going to let your brother do
I'll do it.
do that. And if I see a little girl in a red dress, I'm out. So just know I'll go sit in the car, or, go walk through Pike's Place. But I don't want to have any interactions with a little girl or a mourning mother who wants to try to console me for being alive. That is the story of the Butterworth Building, one of the most haunted places in Seattle. If you like what you hear, if you like all the crimey and spooky things that we talk about, make sure that you're following us. If you are following us, share us with people who you might think actually might like to listen to us. I'm like totally butchering this. I think I'm high as shit from this fucking paint.
Yeah, me too.
Like stumbling over my fucking words right now. Like, what the hell? Anyways, so if you like the things that you hear, you want to share us with people, we would appreciate it. Although I'm not even gonna lie right now, you guys are showing up and out on both the podcasts. It's really crazy. I don't know what's going on, but the jump that we've gotten in downloads, I just feel like y'all really like us, and I appreciate you. And I know Sierra appreciates you. And we're going to continue. And again, I'm sorry about the echoey. It's going to continue to be echoey probably for at least a couple months, unless we can figure something else out. But it's, it is what it is. Anyways, other than that, I don't have anything else to say other than, again, once more, thank you so much for listening to us tell you the story about the Butterworth Building. Not to be confused with Mrs. Buttersworth, but the Butterworth Building, one of the most haunted buildings in Seattle. Until next week, catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.